want to thank the pastor for having me here today. This is a very, very important issue that we're addressing. It involves the fight to protect innocent lives, and it's certainly one of the most worthwhile causes a person could support. My question that I want to address briefly with you today is abortion murder in the state of Idaho? I'll give you a quick overview of my short presentation here. I want to review current Idaho code with respect to murder, aggravated battery, and abortion, including a change to those laws that we made this session. I say we, I voted against it, but I'm part of the legislature, so I'll say we. I want to review an anti-abortion bill I attempted to introduce this past session in the legislature. I want to give an explanation of the public complaints I received about my bill, because I think it does relate to Idaho code. I want to talk about the Attorney General's legal opinion of my anti-abortion bill and the reaction of the media, local pro-life groups, which was interesting, and the reaction of my fellow legislators to the bill, which I found to be quite sad, actually. And I want to talk briefly about some of the support I received from the public. Current Idaho code with respect to murder, aggravated battery, and abortion. I'll start with Idaho Code 18-4001, the title of which is Murder Defined. And I quote, "Murder is the unlawful killing of a human being, including, but not limited to, a human embryo or fetus with malice aforethought." Well, I'm not a lawyer, but I can read. And I've dealt with Idaho code as a police officer for 12 years and also as a lawmaker. So it appears the intentional killing of a human embryo or fetus is murder under Idaho code. That brings us to Idaho Code 18-4003, titled Degrees of Murder. And I quote, "All murder which is perpetrated by any kind of willful, deliberate, or premeditated killing is murder of the first degree." So it appears the deliberate murder of a human fetus qualifies as first-degree murder under Idaho law. Next is Idaho Code 18-907, titled Aggravated Battery. And I quote, "A person commits aggravated battery who, in committing battery upon the person of a pregnant female, causes great bodily harm, permanent disability, or permanent disfigurement to an embryo or fetus." So once again, it appears first-degree murder of a human embryo or fetus would involve the crime of aggravated battery under Idaho code. I want to talk briefly about Idaho Code 18-601, and this is entitled Interpretation of State Statutes in the State Constitution. And this is very telling. This is interesting. I quote, "The Supreme Court of the United States, having held in the case of Planned Parenthood versus Casey, that the states have a profound interest in preserving the life of preborn children, Idaho hereby expresses the fundamental importance of that profound interest, and it is hereby declared to be the public policy of this state that all state statutes, rules, and constitutional provisions shall be interpreted to prefer, by all legal means, live childbirth over abortion." So, ladies and gentlemen, it seems the state of Idaho publicly states it prefers living babies over aborted babies. Now, keep that part of Idaho code in mind. Let's go to 18-4016 Idaho code. Title is Definition of Human Embryo and Fetus, Prohibiting the Prosecution of Certain Persons. Number one, for purposes of this chapter, embryo or fetus shall mean any human in utero. Number two, nothing in this chapter arising from the killing of an embryo or fetus shall be construed to permit the prosecution, A, of any person for conduct relating to an abortion for which the consent of the pregnant woman or a person authorized by law to act on her behalf has been obtained, or for which such consent is implied by law. B, of any person for any medical treatment of the pregnant woman or her embryo or fetus, or C, of any woman with respect to her embryo or fetus. Paragraph 3, nothing in this chapter is intended to amend or nullify the provisions of Chapter 6, Title 18, Idaho Code, which was the preceding code I just read to you. So apparently, what the state is saying here is it appears abortion is murder and aggravated battery under Idaho Code, and the state by code prefers babies be born alive in Idaho versus being aborted. Now, this same prohibition on the prosecution of certain persons, it's an affirmative defense language, actually, and it's also found in Idaho Code 18907, which is aggravated battery, so it applies to abortions and aggravated battery. So Idaho Code provides an affirmative defense against prosecution for murder and or aggravated battery for having or providing a consensual abortion. I want to talk about House Bill 250, and this is a bill that passed this current session, and I think it's disgraceful that it passed, and I voted against it. And it changed the 2015 legislative action which banned telehealth chemical abortions and the dispensing by telehealth consultations of prescription or abortifacient drugs. This bill reiterated the legislature's good and valid reasons for banning telehealth chemical abortions and the dispensing of drugs by telehealth conference to cause a chemical abortion. The bill clearly stated having a chemical abortion without an in-person doctor visit is dangerous and not within the standard of medical care deemed appropriate to protect the lives of young girls and women in Idaho. This bill changed existing Idaho code to allow telehealth chemical abortions and the dispensing of abortifacient drugs via telehealth conference. Now, this was all in response to a lawsuit filed by Planned Parenthood against the Attorney General of the state of Idaho. The Attorney General's office felt that it could not defend against this lawsuit and stipulated the facts, making the state's defense in a court of law very difficult. House Bill 250 was sponsored by a local pro-life organization. I find that shocking and somewhat upsetting. The organization felt the passage of the bill would have prevented federal Judge Windmill from entering a finding that existing Idaho code banning telehealth abortions and drugs was unconstitutional. So what this pro-life group attempted to do by surrendering, in my opinion, was avoid a court of law saying that our bill against telehealth abortions was unconstitutional. I voted against the bill, and to the best of my recollection, I was the only one who voted against it. I could be wrong there. There may have been one or two others, but there weren't many. The issue there, folks, was money. The state didn't want to spend the money to defend human life. We have a budget now of $3.6 billion, and we couldn't take a bloody penny out of that to save human life. That's shameful, in my opinion. A little bit about other restrictions on abortions in Idaho under Idaho Code. Abortions are legal in the first and second trimesters only after consultation with an MD who determines that the abortion is appropriate considering the mental, physical, and family factors involved. Abortions are legal in the third trimester only to save the life of the mother or the fetus after a consultation with an MD, and the MD must consult with a second MD who agrees. A woman must get counseling and give informed consent and then wait 24 hours to have the abortion. A young girl under 18 must get the written consent of her parents. First trimester abortions can be done in a hospital, clinic, or doctor's office. Second, third trimester abortions must be done in a licensed hospital. I introduced a bill, which was an anti-abortion bill, and I want to just very briefly talk a little bit about that because I think what happened was quite enlightening. I didn't get a bill number, so it never went to the floor for a vote. I knew that would happen, but I introduced it anyway. I couldn't even get a committee hearing in the State Affairs Committee. There were 9 people on the committee. I had one and a possible second person in support. That wasn't enough. So the chairman of the committee decided it wasn't going to get a hearing. I couldn't get any public legislative support for the legislation which would have banned abortions in Idaho except to save the life of the mother. It would have made abortion first-degree murder in Idaho with that one exception. The bill would have done away with the affirmative defense for murder and or aggravated battery for a woman having an abortion and anyone providing or assisting in the abortion. Public complaints I received about my bill, and these are going to sound familiar. Number one, the government can't tell me what to do with my body. Your bill criminalizes women. Poor women need abortions. Is the state going to pay to raise their babies? I actually had a woman call me and demanded that I pay for her baby because she was poor and didn't have an abortion. The Constitution gives me the right to have an abortion. Now, a little bit about the Attorney General's legal opinion of my bill. And I must say that the deputy AG I talked to was very sympathetic, and he congratulated me on standing up and trying to do what I was trying to do. But he said in the legal opinion of the office was the bill would be declared unconstitutional under the U.S. Constitution. He said the bill violated the woman's right to due process, including the right to privacy in making an abortion decision. Roe v. Wade, 1973, ruling held a fetus is not considered a person under the 14th Amendment, and the court declined to decide when life begins. In 1992, Planned Parenthood v. Casey, another court case in the Supreme Court, held the state has no interest in the abortion decision prior to viability of the fetus. Also held that the state could regulate abortions after viability if allowing abortions to save the life of the mother. The AG's office said my bill would amount to the state imposing an undue burden on the rights of the mother to have an abortion. A little bit about the reaction of the media, local pro-life groups, and the legislators to my bill. The media swarmed on me, and that was good. I wanted the media to talk about this, so that was a success. The reporting I saw was actually accurate, so that's to their credit. A&E Network came and did an hour-long filming and included parts of that in a special they were doing on abortion. I haven't seen that video, so I hope they got it right. Idaho Chooses Life did not contact me in any way. I heard they did not support my bill. Right to Life of Idaho contacted me in person and did not support my bill. No religious groups contacted me from the Boise area, not one. My fellow legislators were mostly silent about my bill. 2 of them expressed private support. None that I know of went public with support. The Senate leadership did not like or support my bill. That saddens me. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. I can't think of any more important issue than protecting human life in Idaho, and your legislature ran away from the issue, literally. They're good people, and there's the rub. They're good people, but they won't stand up. That's politics. Expressions of support from the public. I have to tell you, overwhelmingly, I got more pro support than negative support. The negative support, though, the negative comment was vicious. I won't even go into what some of the people had to say. I got many texts, emails, and phone calls of support. Many of the callers identified as Christians. Some of the female callers said they had a past abortion and now knew the truth and said they wanted to support me in trying to get the word out to stop abortions. I received some support from legislators in other states who are trying to do the same thing I was trying to do. And I did get some support even from out of the U.S. and from Canada. So, folks, I guess I probably used up my 15 minutes, so I'm going to be done here, but this is an important issue. We have wonderful people in the state legislature. They're intelligent, they're dedicated, most are Christians, all are religious, they're very accomplished people. But the problem they face is they wish to be reelected, and they have forgotten, for the most part, what their purpose is. Their purpose is not to have a career. Their purpose is to do the right thing for the state of Idaho. And their purpose, quite frankly, if I can wax religious for just a second, is to do God's work. Some will argue with that comment. They'll say God has no role in state government. Ladies and gentlemen, if he doesn't, then what do we look to for guidance in state government? If you check your morals at the door, how do you make your judgment calls? These are the types of comments I had to deal with. I'm glad that I brought the bill. Next session, I'm going to bring some semblance of the same bill. I'm going to keep knocking at the door until it opens, and it will open because we're going to win this fight. That is already predetermined. We just need to go through the battles to get to the final victory. So thank you very much.